Okay, cool. So we're gonna go through how to build muscle in Ramadan. So a lot of you are probably worried right now because you're gonna have to start fasting soon, and you've got a limited time frame for like when you can eat, when you can train, most likely because you're probably gonna train after iftar. So let's go through a few things and how you can actually build muscle in Ramadan and how a lot of people make some really big mistakes and because of that they don't build muscle. And if you can't tell, this is a bicep. It might be poorly drawn by me, but it's a bicep because yeah, we're talking about building muscle. We're talking about building muscle, but yeah. And I feel like a teacher making these whiteboard videos, but I've always wanted to be a teacher, but instead I'm a coach. So here we are. And I do want you to take this video kind of seriously because I'm putting a lot of value into this. I've got my plan here on my second phone, and yeah, I want you to literally take notes, make the most out of this advice because it will help you a lot in Ramadan. And I wish I knew this stuff years ago because I used to always lose gains in Ramadan. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So what most people do is they give up. They think that they're just going to lose muscle because they're going to have to fast. Obviously, it's harder to eat enough and stuff, but it's all about being smart. Okay, and we're going to go through that in this video and how to actually like navigate both your diet, your training, your recovery, and just what to do in general. And some bonus tips that you probably didn't know about. So, most people kind of like underestimate what they can do, and they don't really train enough. They don't bother to eat properly. They just resort to eating a lot of like fried foods. Obviously, if you're Asian like me, you know that fried foods in Ramadan are like big. Like your house will probably be making them every day. So we need a solid plan to avoid that. So yeah, we don't want to give up before we even start and give up mentally. Secondly, you'd probably be surprised that fasting can actually help you build muscle because it increases your growth hormone, your human growth hormone, by like 2 to 5 times if you're fasting. But obviously, you still need to be eating enough and like training and keeping your protein intake high. We'll get into that in a second. So yeah, we need to make sure that your training and nutrition are all dialed in, or else fasting will not help you build muscle. It'll do the opposite, and yeah, you'll just lose muscle and instead gain fat, which we don't want. So yeah, let's talk about the best times to train because it's all about being strategic in Ramadan. So best times to train. And to be fair, as I'm making these notes, like, before I rub it off and talk about the next topic, you can just like screenshot it. It'll be easier to make notes. Best times to train. There's two best times to train in Ramadan. So one is before iftar, and the second best time is, I'm going to be a bit more specific here. Second best time is about 2 hours after iftar. I'm going to go into why exactly these are the two best times. So obviously before iftar, you could train. You're going to be a bit dehydrated though because you can't have water yet, so you're going to be dehydrated. My handwriting might suck. I haven't really made a whiteboard video before, but here we are. It's got to improve as we go. So dehydrated, but right after your training, you can have some water. You could have your dates. You could have your food. You could refuel yourself. Refuel after training. But it will be lower quality of a training session. Like it won't be as high quality as like if you trained after iftar because you already got water in your system, you've got food in your system, you've got more energy. Okay. So those are the three things that I would say about that. Kind of got a bit cramped there, but when it comes to after iftar, you're fueled already. You've got a higher quality session, a higher quality training session. because like I said, you're fueled up and you're probably not as like mentally exhausted because you're not fasting and you've had a break after work and stuff. So yeah, I would personally train 2 hours after iftar because it's just smarter, really. Usually, obviously, certain situations, like it depends on your lifestyle. You might have to like go to the mosque right after iftar or for like a certain amount of time, and it just depends. Everyone's different, right? So you might have a job or where you have to go for a shift at that time. I doubt you'll have that in Ramadan, but who knows, you might. So it's about looking at your lifestyle and what's more realistic for you before you decide before you decide what time you want to train. Some people will train very late at night. Personally, I don't recommend that because I feel like you should be getting a nap in or like some sleep. If you want to though, you can. You can. There's nothing stopping you. But yeah, obviously, if you train like later on in the night, you're still going to be fueled up and you'll have water in your system, so that'll be good. Cool. Next, we're going to talk about training structure. So I'm going to rub this off if you want to screenshot it. Now's a chance. Never really gave you much of a chance, but you've got to screenshot. You've got to pause the video and then screenshot, to be fair. I ain't got time to wait all day for you. But yeah, next thing I want to talk about training structure. I might have to make this video into 2 parts because I think I'm going to be rambling on for a while. These videos might be too long. Cool, so when it comes to your training structure, let's use compound exercises. I'm going to explain what these are. But the reason we want to do compound exercises mainly is because they give you the most bang for your buck. So you're hitting multiple muscle groups in one exercise. So let's say, for example, the bench press. You're working your chest, you're working your shoulders, you're working your triceps at the same time. Instead of just doing something isolated like the chest fly, where you're only working the chest or whatever. So you want to work multiple muscle groups at once. And that way you don't have to train as much, but you're hitting more muscles, which is great. So you've got weightlifting compounds, stuff like bench presses. You could do these with barbells or dumbbells, whatever you want. You can even do the machine versions of them. There's a ton of exercises I could bring. I'm just going to bring up a few examples. You got deadlifts, you got pull-ups, some calisthenics exercises as well. You got dips. You got all sorts, to be honest. Push-ups, push-up variations, whatever type of push-ups you're currently working on. And yeah, like it just depends, like what exercises you prefer. Obviously, like out of these and many other compound exercises, I've just pulled up 5 that came to my mind. You've also got squats. Actually, I want to put those in. Quite good exercise. Cool. But what's more important as well, alongside training your compound exercises, it's about your training intensity as well. You're going to have to drop your training intensity because you're fasting throughout the day. You can't expect yourself to be training too intensely, and you might have to reduce some volume as well, like do slightly less sets, less reps as well. But just focus on your form and like the quality of your training session instead of trying to push for like new PRs and stuff, which basically means like new personal records, which we don't want to be really aiming for while fasting, just because you're not fueled up the same way as you would normally. Next, you want to make sure that your training intensity is not as high as normal because obviously you're not as fueled up, right? You're probably more mentally fatigued as well. So I would say to drop it by like 20-30%. I'm just going to note that down here. So when I say intensity and I tell you to drop that, I mean like how much weight you're using, or if it's like a body weight exercise, don't train with such an intense version of that exercise. For example, let's say I'm currently working on my one arm push ups, for example. One arm push ups are much harder than normal 2 arm push ups, right? Maybe I'll have to just do more reps of push ups or less reps of the one arm push ups instead of trying to like really push myself to failure and go really hard on like a harder progression because that's more intense, right? I might have to drop that or do like an assisted version or something in between. Intensity by 20-30% than usual. Okay, and you might even have to reduce some volume. This will ensure the training quality doesn't drop, because when you're fasting, you might feel like you're able to do it really well. You're probably not compared to your normal self. So, I'd say still keep 2 to 3 sets per exercise. And what else did I write here? Yeah. Train lower rep ranges. Oh, my handwriting looks terrible there, but that says ranges, rep ranges. I'll say work between 6 to 12 reps, don't go too high, and obviously you're already dropping the weight, so that should be very feasible. Feasible means doable, by the way. I learned that in chemistry. I sucked at chemistry. Anyway, yeah. Another thing I'd say is when it comes to your training structure, I can't really fit it on here, so I'm going to have to rub this out, screenshot it. Another thing about training structure is cardio. Now, I don't want you to do too much cardio because cardio burns a lot of calories. Obviously, I do want you to move, but I don't want you to do a lot of cardio. So I'll explain what I want you to do. So, normally you might do a ton of like treadmill work, bike work, whatever you do. Hopefully you do some cardio. Shouldn't skip it in general, but what I want you to do is I want you to either do a more intense amount for a small amount of time, or just stick to like basic walking, like after your meal at iftar, because that'll actually help you digest your food as well, right? Help you get better sleep. But I'd say reduce cardio, and also because obviously like we want to try and conserve as many calories as we're getting, right? Because we're fasting and it's harder to eat enough. Whether you're trying to build muscle or lose weight. So reduce cardio, but walk daily. Well, I was recording and my phone alarm went off, so let's carry on from where we were. So I'm gonna walk daily after iftar. Okay, it'll help you digest your food, and yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good for you, man. Get some steps in, but reduce your cardio. Do short, intense. I should probably write this at the bottom. I'm running out of space. I want you to do short, intense bursts of cardio, like a little bit of sprinting, for example. Like, I wouldn't do too much of it, but if you do cardio for whatever reason, only short, intense bursts. Okay, cool. It'll keep your cardio up, but it'll also help you preserve muscle better. Obviously, I don't want you to do too many intense sprints and stuff. Obviously, be mindful of how much you actually do, but if you have to do cardio, I'd rather you do it like that and daily walking after iftar. Cool. So yeah, I'm gonna save the rest for part 2 of this video because I think we're already at like 15 minutes, so I don't want this video to be too long because it might intimidate some of you and you won't sit and watch the video and make notes, which is not good. So I'll see you in part 2 where we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about diet more and sleep, diet, hydration, and sleep. So you'll see that in part 2.